From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 things this week that made us go wow. That's right. That's Tom Campbell, our Chief Creative Officer, James St. James, editor of the Wow Report, and myself, Elton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder. I think it's our Halloween episode.
Oh, I better think of some Halloween content quick.
Yeah, I think.
I think James is, for those of you not able to watch, James's Halloween costume is on right now, and he's Danny from Greece. He's Danny Zuko. He's got a black sleeveless.
I know.
t-shirt.
I'm feeling very butch. I'm having a sleeveless T-shirt moment, and I thought long and hard about it, and then I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna be butch today.
Is this the first year that meme of like all those kind of fantasy Halloween costumes thing is going around?
You know, it's funny. I have been seeing those, and they have been cracking me up. They are so funny.
They are.
Well, I would take this picture and put Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito. How dare you, sir?
Danny DeVito in Greece. Thank you very much.
All right, well, let's start our countdown at number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
Oh, this one's hard, you guys. And it's the wonderful, gorgeous human being, inside and out, Leslie Jordan, left Earth this week. And
So unexpected, so sad.
And if there is a heaven, Leslie is there, and he's a large and in charge. You know, Leslie Jordan, people know from Will and Grace as what was it, Beverly Leslie, something like that. And
Beverly Leslie.
Thank you. Karen Walker's nemesis, which, fun fact, that he was a last-minute replacement. That character was supposed to be played by Joan Collins, and something happened. Yes, and he took over it. And, you know, I first fell in love with him watching him in plays and movies by Del Shores, Sordid Lives, Southern Baptist Sissies, and, you know, he appeared in Drag Race a couple of times. I had the wonderful privilege of working with him. I knew him outside the rooms. We had some mutual friends. I've been to dinners with him. He was the best storyteller, but sort of more than anything, and I want to hear you guys, it's like never was there someone who was diminutive. He was a sissy by definition, and yet he was one of the greatest men I've ever known. And he was full of love, radiated love, and helped, I think, everybody feel better about themselves. He's huge in the gay community, but I think especially during COVID, when he had his viral moments and his very honest to camera conversations, I think the whole world fell deeply in love with Leslie.
Yes. I met him, I think, in the 90s. We were in the Out 100 together, and they had us do a photo shoot together dressed as like 18th century courtesans, and we spent about 5 hours everyone dissolved into giggles, because he was, like you said, in the great tradition of Southern storytellers. He is up there with Truman Capote and Tennessee Williams. Once he starts telling a story, it was magical, and I was very happy to spend a lot of time with him. He was recently at one of the DragCons. We did a panel together. So God bless him. What a wonderful, wonderful person.
This is what everybody has said to me, including Randy. He's like, it feels like every year he was a bigger star. His momentum was just building and building and building.
Well, I read an interesting piece by Alexander Kakala, and talking about how his struggle in life, and that embracing his sissiness and learning to love the sissy was sort of part of his journey. And I loved what you said, Tom, because I think sissy power is so underrated and ignored, and yet it is this sort of profound moral force. And I think that's why his star got brighter and brighter, because he just leaned into the sissy. And I think we need, sissy that walk, right?
Absolutely. It's just, again, when people pass, you remember the best of them, but it's hard to remember anything but great things about Leslie Jordan, who I also know had been sober for many years and just really had been there and done that and come out the other side as this beautiful creature, and he will be so deeply missed. You know how when people pass away, famous people, your social media fills up with people with pictures with them.
Yes.
It was true with Leslie, but I feel like it's because he was so accessible. I feel like if you lived in West Hollywood, you had coffee with Leslie. You saw him at the Starbucks. He made you laugh. He was a special guy, and of course, he's on a sitcom, Call Me Kat.
With Shane Jackson and Mayim Bialik.
And they've been posting, and there's anyway. So I can go on and on, but it makes me tear up and cry, and it makes me so grateful that I got to know him a little bit, and that video of him and his messages live on, but not the same.
Rest in power, Leslie Jordan. Let's move on to number 9, James.
Number 9.
American Horror Story has started again. I don't know, season 47, season 53, something like that. I don't know. It's American Horror Story NYC, and it takes place in the New York City club scene of 1981. It's 1981. There are maybe 2 serial killers at work in the leather scene of the West Village. They're dismembering gays and drugging people, and it's sort of based on The Last Call Killer, which happened in the early 80s in real life, and it's what's Cruising, the Al Pacino movie, was based on. It also sort of seems like there's a little bit of Igel Vesti in there, the Andrew Crispo murders. There's a photographer who is very Robert Mapplethorpean, and he takes pictures of the leather queens, and he does very seedy, artsy pictures, and he has a Sam Wagstaffian art dealer boyfriend who is very creepy, and we don't know what's going on with him, but they're very S&M and creepy weird. There's also Patti LuPone is a singer in a bathhouse, sort of like Bette Midler. There's Dennis O'Hare plays an Andy Warhol type. There's a Klaus Nomi character who dies very early on of a mysterious disease that is spreading through the gay community. I think the serial killer is sort of a metaphor for the coming AIDS crisis that's happening. There's a Larry Kramer character who works at the New York Native, and he's sort of somewhere between Larry Kramer and Gabriel Rotello and Michelangelo Signorelli. He gets radicalized by the fact that the government and nobody is doing anything about this coming disease and the serial killers, and he's keeps getting angrier and angrier and tries to bring in the lesbian community and everything to help with the problems that are starting. We also have Sandra Bernhardt in it, who is really fun, and we have Russell Tovey as one of the stars, and Russell Tovey is so cute and so wonderful.
Swoon,
yes, very, very handsome. He's one of the policemen who's gay and in the leather community trying to find out what's happening. And then also young Charlie Carver, little Charlie Carver is in it, who was, with World of Wonder, worked on the Stonewall, and he's so cute and so good. And he's also one of the producers. So I'm always very happy for his career. Watching him do well. He's such a little cutie and a good kid.
Are you enjoying it?
I was about to ask the same
American
thing.
Horror Stories, there is some clunky bits and there's some fun bits, and you just take what you want and you discard the rest. And it is fun to see the leather scene portrayed, and fun to see the Mapplethorpe character and the Sam Wagstaff character and the Klaus Nomi character, and he's always performing at the gay clubs, and Patti LuPone singing her heart out. So there is some fun things there.
Never having watched an episode of American Horror Story, the phenomena, I'm sort of intrigued just by the way it seems to just take actual stories and then sort of mash them up in a sort of barely disguised way. It's such a radical, unusual thing to do, right?
And that's where people get upset with him. But there's also, at the same time, he is sort of showing us gay culture in every period, in every time, and he's introducing people to it. So you can't really get too upset with it. I don't know that if you've never watched an American Horror Story, this is the season to start. I think you would go back to the beginning and do the first 3 or 4 seasons, which were spectacular.
2 quick things. One is that Law and Order takes real life stories.
Yeah.
Them. It's not unusual. But second, when you say New York City, gay men in 1981, I have PTSD. and I have trouble because of the AIDS. It's just like
Well,
it fills me with
true.
fear beyond anything American Horror Story could do. But
the way he gets around that is that this is about serial killers, and one of the serial killers might be a demon, and there's all sorts. It's not just AIDS, and it is sort of fun to go back. That was a very carefree period right before the coming AIDS.
It was like the last year almost. 81 was the last year that we were dumb about it. We were innocent.
And to see everybody, doing coke and getting fucked at leather clubs is something that like most kids haven't ever experienced, and it is sort of fun to relive.
Blake, I don't want you listening to this part of the podcast. Thank you. Cover your ears, Blake.
Well, I do love the posters, so.
But that's just the thing about American Horror Story is the posters never have anything to do with the actual series. Like the posters look like 90s, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I mean,
they don't look like 1981.
They're very genitalia.
Yeah, wallpaper genitalia.
Someone said to me the whole thing was based on Studio 54. So I have no idea what it is.
They were trolling me on Reddit and saying that it was about Michael Alig and James St. James. So, but it is not.
Honey, that's a whole nother American Horror.
Not yet.
All right, let's move on to number 8.
Number 8.
I was away last week. I was in London, where I was really lucky to see a preview for a musical that opened this week, and it's called Tammy Faye.
Yeah,
it's a musical by Elton John. Jake Shears
is one of the writers too, isn't he?
Jake from Scissor Sisters wrote the lyrics. Elton John wrote the music. The book is by James Graham, who actually turned The Best of Enemies, that documentary about William F. Buckley, right? And Gore Vidal. Anyway, okay. So
that's when they first coined the phrase crypto-fascist.
Yes, something like that. It's really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It was at a small theater, the Almeida Theater in North London. And I mean, years ago, David Furnish, Elton John's husband, told me about this, that they were doing this musical. And my immediate
beware of dropping names.
My immediate reaction was sort of, like you didn't call us, and of course, no one, absolutely, they should make a musical about it and not call us or mention us or have anything to do with the Eyes of Tammy Faye. But once I got over myself, which took about 6 years, I was really excited to see it. And it is actually, I think it is actually really good. The set, well, first thing is the Jim and Tammy story is one narrative, but the bigger narrative is televangelism in the 80s and Falwell and radical right-wing fundamentalism, which is how the Republicans even got elected on the back of Nixon, on the back of Reagan and Trump. It's all this epic story, and how Jim and Tammy fell afoul of that televangelist vision, because they were welcoming everybody. They loved the people with AIDS. They loved the gays. It was like an inclusive party rather than an exclusive one in which anyone who wasn't with you was going to go to hell and damnation and what have you. So that was all great. And they told that story, I thought, really well. They did it with a set that was very minimal, but it was like the Rowan and Martin set of old, where there were like all Hollywood squares, like rows of sort of windows, and people could pop out. And it
I
really
love that. That's fabulous.
Yes, it was really good. The other thing is that I found really great is, to be honest, I've never really found Jim Baker to be that interesting or that appealing. And because it's always been, for my money, about Tammy Faye, and that she was the beating heart and the loving soul of the whole story. But Andrew Reynolds.
I love Andrew. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, James. I could not take my eyes off him. He was so gorgeous.
So cute.
I just sat there having impure thoughts all the way through. And it's the first time there was a complexity to Jim Baker's character in this that I've never really seen in anything. And of course, they touch on the gay stuff. They don't really go there as far as they could, although a hilarious moment is when Jim and Tammy set up PTL, and they're reenacting the Passion plays and having these theatrical extravaganzas of the crucifixion, and they give you little bits of them. They are the gayest thing you ever saw in your life. And there's a guy running around with a whip and whipping Christ, and someone at some point complains, "Everybody's gay. What's going on?" And you can, it all sort of makes sense in a way.
Did you ever see Andrew Rannells in the original production of A Book of Mormon?
I did. Yes, that's where
he's so good at that. He's so I've seen him a lot. He has a very busy career, but I'm glad. I just things that he's really talented, deeply talented,
and because he plays. I think he captures that sort of uncanny valley thing in the sense that Jim Baker is charismatic, but you also kind of don't quite believe him.
Yeah,
that sort of inauthenticity, somewhat
unctuous or something. Yep,
something just that degree that's off, and he captures it so well as being sort of a wholesome, because he's a wholesome looking guy, right? I mean, it very, very gorgeous. So be interesting to see how it does. It's gotten some great reviews. It's a big story to try and fit into. There's a lot of story in there, and I wonder if it all completely works out.
I'm interested to know how the music, what you thought of the music.
There aren't any standout.
There's
songs.
no big bring the house down number.
And I kind of think that's what you need. I mean,
yeah,
even Tammy herself in real life, when she had an amazing number of songs, any which I would have loved to have seen here authentically in this context.
And especially when you have the two powerhouses of Elton John and Jake Shears, you would think that there'd be something. Maybe they're retooling it. I did see that Elton John also has Devil Wears Prada coming up on Broadway this upcoming season. So
yes,
he is very busy.
So we don't have to worry about Elton. We don't have to worry.
Yes.
He's doing okay.
Exactly. That is Tammy Faye through December 3rd at the Almeida Theatre in London. Let's take a quick break. I want to tell you, Halloween is coming, and we have a special on House of Love cocktails, right, Tom?
It's true. It's true. If you've never tried them, this is the time.
It is. It is. If you go to houseoflovecocktails.com, through midnight on Halloween, and if you enter BOO at checkout, that's BOO. I wonder who wrote this, Tom Campbell. I just have this. I see your hand in this.
No.
Anyway, if you enter BOO at checkout, you get 20% off. No tricks, all treats. House of Love cocktails and mocktails.
There's incredible premium pour cocktails. There's also alcohol-free mocktails, so everybody is invited to the party.
That's right. All right, they're boolicious. Blake, do you have a question?
Yes. It's Halloween season, and the Thriller video. Everyone knows that. Rod Temperton, who wrote the title track, as well as a couple of others on that album, has said that Vincent Price wasn't his first choice to record the monologue at the beginning of the song. Who was his first choice?
All right. We'll have the answer right after the break. You're listening to Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And welcome back to the Wow Report. It's Benson here with Tom and James and Blake. And we're counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. Before we continue the countdown, Blake, you had a question for us.
In the Thriller video, Rod Temperton, who wrote the title track, has said that Vincent Price wasn't his first choice to record the monologue at the beginning of the song. Who was his first choice?
I'm going to say it was Joan Collins, and then it went to Leslie Jordan, but then it went to
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price after that.
Good guess. No.
James, you're paying attention. For that, I appreciate. I can't imagine anybody but Vincent Price doing that.
It's crazy.
The only thing I could think of, but I don't think they were alive or even close to being alive, would be like Bela Lugosi.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to say Sir John Gielgud.
Okay.
It was the Mistress of the Dark, Elvira.
Oh.
And why didn't she do it?
I think they had a meeting with Quincy Jones, who produced the album, and he suggested Vincent Price because his wife was a good friend.
I love that.
Vincent Price's wife was fabulous. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember her. She was wonderful.
Had dinner with the Vincent Prices at Joan Rivers' house years ago, but I don't want to name names.
Oh my gosh, it's a hard room today. All right, we got to number 7.
Number 7.
Just a moment in gay, queer, non-binary, trans history.
We never talk about any of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. This is but the first number 1 in America and really around the world with a non-binary and trans artist is playing, booming through your speakers right now, and it's the song "Unholy." That's a combo of Sam Smith and the incredible Kim Petrus. They're both incredible. I don't know if you guys, you'll know it if you'll hear it.
I love this song. It's my favorite song of the moment. It is absolutely spectacular.
You will know it the second you hear it because it has been playing on TikTok. They dropped the chorus on TikTok like 2 or 3 months ago, and every porn star, everybody I follow on TikTok has done, little things. It's really catchy. It's really great. And so that's, I'm telling you, like I'm 90, which I almost am, but like TikTok clearly is the platform to launch number 1s around the world now. Because everybody has heard it. True. It's got a hook you cannot deny. And someone was even saying the video just came out, and it's a pretty cool video. I can tell you all about it. But someone's saying it's almost a letdown because people have so imagined what this song is and seen so many.
Well, it's interesting when you say that about TikTok launching a song or whatever. TikTok will also find a song, an obscure song from like 4 years ago, and all of a sudden it will be ubiquitous and it will skyrocket straight to number 1. It is an amazing platform for helping people. The song, Blake showed it to me the other day. He showed me the video, and my first reaction was like, I don't like this. And I started being like a cranky old man. And then the more I heard it, the more I listened to it, I was like, okay. And I mean, I do love Kim Petrus. I think she's absolutely amazing. And
I love her voice. I love everything about her.
I go back and forth on. Sometimes I love his stuff. Sometimes his stuff drives me crazy. But And
speaking of my mature mind, the beauty of MTV back in the day, when you sat and you watched programming, is you saw these videos over and over again. You kind of weren't in control, and they would just seep into your psyche to the point now where you hear certain songs from that period and you just remember the images. And then when you go like with this video for Unholy, you click on it once and you think like, I don't know if I like it. It's like you saw it once. You were distracted half the time looking at your phone. So you kind of have to like put it on repeat and really get into it. It's kind of a great
and we must mention that Gottmik and Violet Chachki.
Oh yes,
were in the music video.
So
I'll post that on the Wow Report, by the way.
And I believe it's sponsored by Durex condoms because they show up in lots of shots.
Well, and the song is about a guy on the DL who's married and messing around at the gay club. So,
yeah, it's a crazy club. Which, by the way, I think that's a bad message about cheating. I think everyone should cheat, but that's for another show, another time, another topic.
You think people should cheat? Is what you're saying?
Sure. I think people should have permission to cheat. Maybe you should just been more I guess, frank with her, but
I don't know. Tom, this is shocking. You are the most moral person, the most moral, upright person I've ever met. I can't believe that you are down with that.
Well, we'll talk about it on the Tom Campbell Everybody Should Cheat podcast.
But the thing is, because I have been cheated on so many times by boyfriends that I have a knee-jerk reaction to hate cheaters because I'm always the one getting cheated on.
You've never cheated.
Well, yes, but not to the extent where I'm very much on the down low. I think
you never got caught, is what you're saying. Yeah. Now, Anderson Cooper has an amazing podcast I've yet to listen to, but people are talking about it on my walks about people losing the loss and mourning and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm going to do a podcast about cheating. It's something everyone's done or it's been done to them.
I can't wait. Let's do it.
Benton is strangely quiet about this subject. Right
Unholy
here.
by Tom Campbell, the podcast.
Unholy. I have not heard the song, and I've been the title Unholy. I'm like, what's it about? I thought maybe it was a Halloween type thing.
It is very Halloweeny. There is sort of a Halloween vibe to it.
Maybe we should do a special cheating evergreen edition too. Top 10 things about cheating.
Top 10 times I've been cheated on.
All right, let's go on to number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6, Kanye. We talked about it last week. We'll talk about it this week. We will probably talk about it again next week. He recently boasted that he could say any anti-Semitic thing that he wants, and Adidas would not drop him. How wrong he was. Adidas dropped him this week, and he sort of holy hell rained down upon him for the things that he said. Just very quickly, Balenciaga cut ties with him. Vogue and Anna Wintour cut ties with him. He was dropped by CAA, dropped by his lawyer, dropped by JP Morgan. His stream sales and airplay have plummeted, although Spotify has not dropped him. His stadium shows have been canceled. His documentary has been canceled. His school, very funny, was closed today. And then 2 hours later, it reopened and said, we're better than ever. So that's very strange. I think that's his manic depression happening there. TJ Maxx dropped ties with him.
His deal with the Gap is over.
His deal with the Gap is over.
And just a little perspective, but that Adidas have canceled at a cost of something like $250 million to them. Which I think is awesome.
But they're just taking his name off it, and they're still selling the design, which is a little weird. I don't know if I truck with that. But within 24 hours, he lost his status as a billionaire. His net worth plummeted to just $400 million. And for Tom, Blake, and I, $400 million would be fine. Right, but so you think he's going to be fine, but the fact of the matter is that for someone like him who can lose, $2 billion in a day, $400 is probably not going to be sufficient for
400 million.
The thing that's sad in all this, James, is that I mean, maybe you talked about this last week, but he needs help. I mean, he has.
Well, but that's the thing, because people have been trying to get him help for 10 years. And so if there becomes a point where you just have to wipe your hands of it, because if he's not going to help himself and if nobody can help him, then what do you do if he continues to be a menace to society and he continues to spread hate? That at some point, we've talked about this last week, where there are lots of people who have mental health issues and they don't go around saying bigoted and anti-Semitic things.
I thank God that these corporations had the guts to do the right
But where were these
thing.
corporations when he said that slavery is a choice, or he was talking shit about Harriet Tubman, or he was saying other anti-Semitic things? It seems like it's weird to me that this was the breaking point, when for 10 years he has been saying these horrible, horrible things and doing these horrible things, and everybody was, as long as they were making money off of him, they were happy to let him spew his nonsense.
I'm just glad it happened, and I think this was the straw. For whatever reason, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. And we just live in an age where so many people do not. I mean, the thing is, none of this is new.
As long as the money was rolling in, it seemed like it didn't happen. I do want to also say the one person who has been standing in his corner and came out today in vigorous defense of him was Roseanne Barr, which was sort of like, ah.
Dan Rather put out because supposedly he went to Skechers and was escorted out of the building. You hear about that? And then Dan Rather put out a tweet that said, I think the My Pillow guy would do a collaboration with Kanye.
Oh, God. I know it's like not something to make jokes about, I guess, but also.
You do see on Daily Mail, which I've talked about before, and how Daily Mail comment section is all Russian, bots and trolls and everything. And they are all for Kanye. Oh, God bless Kanye West. Oh, this is just the best thing, blah, blah, blah. So you do see that maybe there's some Republican talking points there that people are going to latch on to. I don't know. It's all just a big mess. And I'm sorry to bring it up again.
Yes,
I'm trying to buy some Adidas sneakers. I'm a Nike guy, but I'm trying to spend some money at Adidas to show my support.
Well, Billy bought all the Kanye stuff when the Gap Yeezy stuff, whatever it was, and was very excited because he thought it was going to be incredibly valuable investment. But of course now, you can't even wear them out of the house. It's like
we don't know how things will bounce back, and people might start thinking it is collectible. I do remember you were praising the Balenciaga garbage, or the Gap garbage bags, and the Balenciaga muddy stuff.
Yeah.
You loved all of that.
James, I was trying to have a discussion about conceptual design in today's world, and you were just having none of it, just shutting it down.
Well, if I may, we can cut this out, but I want to go back to that for 1 second, because to me, it smacked of Marie Antoinette playing shepherdess and pretending to be a poor person at the Petit Trianon, and that's what brought about the revolution.
Well, I know you're waiting for all our heads to be cut off, but the fact of the matter is that that's what fashion has always done. It's always been a sort of flying in the face of reality. It's always been a fantasy, at times a provocative fantasy, or a tasteless fantasy, or even a tone deaf
tasteless fantasy. And if you remember, like Galliano, when he had dressed like people as hobos in newspaper dresses and things like that, that was very much a part of his downfall.
No,
what? You don't remember that?
James. And also, what does Balenciaga have to do with Kanye West? Not very much, really.
Are you sure? He
Oh,
he designed for
Balenciaga. Balenciaga exists as a design house in spite of the fall of Kanye West. That's what I'm saying. Kanye West didn't design the outfit.
He did design for Balenciaga. He most certainly had a collection with Balenciaga.
Did he? I thought Balenciaga helped with the Gap.
They were the first to cut ties with him this week.
Balenciaga helped with the Kanye Gap collaboration. But he didn't design. I don't think Kanye designed for Balenciaga.
Well, I think we'll have to cut all this out because I think he did.
Well, okay. Well, we'll fact check that. All right.
I have totally blown out whatever was happening in your head.
What is happening in my head is, how do I segue from Kanye West to Harry Styles? And because of my limited talents, I can't think of a way to do it. So, but
Number 5.
This week I went to see Harry Styles at he's in LA doing I think he's doing 15 nights of Harry's house at the Forum. Oh my gosh. I mean, he does it in the round, but it's not actually a round. He plays on a square stage to all 4 sides of the audience. He is so good. Like, just the moment he walks out on stage, and interestingly, didn't change his outfit once. Not a change of outfits. It wasn't a big show. It wasn't a huge band. There weren't a lot of visuals. It was extraordinarily stripped down, but not for one moment I didn't look anywhere else. He is lightning in a bottle. He pranced and danced around that stage like he was having the best time. He connected with everybody in that audience somehow. I mean, I guess this is simple. This is what it started.
He's a star. Yes.
He's a star in a way that others are more studied or have to, Beyonce, she's great, amazing. But it's always about perfection. He just showed up, put on a t-shirt or gave that impression that he just showed up,
Yeah. But I imagine that did the crowd were they bananas? Was it just
bananas?
Yes.
Just bananas. He sounded great.
And you're right. The idea that he's always just having fun. Like I've watched clips of his shows, and he'll stop and it looks completely spontaneous. It looks like there's but he's a star. He's just a star.
He's just a star. There's no choreographed routines. There are no dancers. There's no whistles and bells. It's just him and a band, and hit after hit after hit after hit. He never seems to tire. There's one moment where he talks to the audience because it gets them to hold up all the signs that they brought along. He was just so funny just sort of conversational, but so funny. because part of me went along with like, I'm going to put on my queer baiting judgy face and report back to you. I don't have a negative thing to say, and which it's slightly disappointing to me that I can't find anything to nitpick or begrudge.
Can we come up with a new phrase for queer baiting for people we like? It should be sort of like fraternal flirting or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it a bad thing that like straight guys
I
feel
don't believe. I honestly, there's some times when there's queer baiting, and I think that they're doing it for they're doing it in a very cynical way and everything. But I don't believe there's a cynical bone in his body. And I think that if he's flirting with boys, I think he just feels like flirting with boys.
I want to actually go back to what you were saying, Tom, about Leslie Jordan. He's a sissy, and yeah, he's got a girlfriend, and he may well be straight, but it's just that joy of sissiness. It's not. I guess sissy is maybe too strong a word for it because it's just more sort of fluid or fey or something, but it's glorious and it's great, and it's not to be pigeonholed and said, well, this is this is that. And of
flamboyant, he's flambrock.
Yeah,
there you go. Yes,
but I some people like I can name another rock star who is accused of queer baiting, and for them I feel like they're doing it for clicks and for to try and get the gays to buy the songs, and it's sort of cynical. But with Harry, I don't feel that at all. I honestly feel that he loves his gay audience, he loves his non-binary friends, he loves wearing a dress, and he might have a girlfriend, but it's all part of the joy of Harry.
Yeah. There we go. Harry's house. I love it. I want to live in it. And I'm going to go back and see him again. Yeah.
Good.
Let's take a quick break. You can see Harry through November 15th at the Forum in LA before he moves on to Mexico. Just before we go to break, congratulations to Trixie and Katya for this, not one, not two, but 3 streaming nominations for Best Editing, Best Unscripted, and Best Show. That's amazing. And of course, where can you see that? You can see it on Wow Presents Plus. Just go to wowpresentsplus.com, sign up. I think you get a week free, but you'll want to stick around, trust me.
I have a question. Which movie tops Rotten Tomatoes list of the scariest movie ever made?
All right, we'll have the answer to that teasing Halloween-themed question right after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. It's Fenton here with Tom and James. And Blake, you had a question for us.
I did. Which horror movie tops Rotten Tomatoes list of the scariest movie ever?
Well, you would think that it would probably be The Exorcist or Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Halloween, but it's probably not. What is it? Oh, Tom, what do you think?
Not one of those Saw movies, I hope. I don't know. I stick with the old-fashioned ones. I'm like Halloween or Psycho.
Psycho, maybe, yeah. Or what about what's that cannibal one? The in South America in there. Anyway,
I'm going to go based on what my nephew is going as for Halloween. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
There's a new horror movie out, the title of which I can't remember, but people are being carried out.
The Terrifier one that we talked about last week. Yes, Terrifier 2.
Yep. It's Exorcist.
I thought so.
James, you did it.
Yeah.
Very long, sloppy way, but you did it.
We are counting down the top 10 things that made us go, wow. We've reached number 4.
Number 4.
I watched 2 episodes of a new docuseries that you can see on Hulu or OWN, executive produced by Oprah and Tracy Ellis Ross. And it's called The Hair Tales. And it's this incredible celebration of Black women and their hair. And it's kind of fascinating. Now, I was confused at first because I thought it was just a single documentary. I thought, geez, she's talking to Oprah a great deal in this documentary. But it turns out that every episode there's somebody else that Tracy Ellis Ross is interviewing. In the first episode, it's Oprah, which is anytime spent with Oprah, you just realize how much you miss Oprah and how we used to be able to spend 5 hours a week with her. And then Issa Rae is in the second episode. And there's a congresswoman coming up, and it's split between the celebrity interview with, and then there's this kind of beauty parlor of women getting their hair done and just regular women telling their stories. And then they have sit downs with experts and academics and things talking about the history of Black women's hair. Obviously, it makes its point in its totality, and it's just how hair is political. And the insights from the Oprah interview just blew me away. First of all, some of this has to do with hair, and sometimes it rambles off into other things. But Oprah remembers sitting on the porch in Mississippi and her grandmother braiding her hair. And Oprah, no matter what else, she had good hair, and everyone was proud of it. So she felt always just, she had beautiful hair. And then she also said that there's a picture of her with pigtails, and there's a picture of her like at 8 that has on her desk. And she goes, I knew I had purpose then. That hair told me I had purpose. And she goes, what else was going on then? She goes, I found Christ then. She started going to church. And so Oprah's training, it just makes so much sense that Oprah's first moments of empowerment were around God, the preachers and people communicating with language and passion and words. And it was really interesting. And then apropos of nothing, but I want to tell a story. She talked about when she was 22 and an anchor at a Maryland station, and they brought her in 22, and they said, and her hair at this point was kind of smoothed over. It looked like Diana Ross in Mahogany. It wasn't like crazy, it wasn't a natural. And they said, your hair's too big. We've got to do something about it. And again, she's like, oh my God, my hair is, to herself, my hair is my thing. And they said it interferes with the green screen. It buzzes. So we're gonna send you to a salon in New York, and they're going to fix it. And Oprah said, I didn't even think of it as a black or white thing back then. All I thought was, I'm not pretty. I need to be fixed, which is really powerful. The guy also said to her, she started to tear up. He said, your eyes are really far apart and your nose is broad. Would you ever think about getting that fixed? She's like, what does that mean? Like, they wanted to give her plastic surgery. And so she went to the salon, and it was all white people. And she said, is there anybody? No. And so they ended up giving her, as a French salon, they gave her a French perm that literally burnt her scalp. And she left with scabs and tiny bits of hair. Her hair, her crowning glory, the thing, how women are, and Black women especially, just it was taken away from her. And she talks about this one other Black woman who was the story editor, who they showed pictures of, who had very short hair, beautiful Black woman. And she brought her to her barber, and they shaved it all off, and they had to take her off the air. And slowly she had a small perm, bigger perm, bigger perm. And she goes, I never let anyone touch my hair until the Oprah Winfrey show started 8 or more years later. And she finally found someone that could take care of it, she could trust with her hair. And of course, Oprah's hair journey. And again, there's lots of women's stories, but I was obsessed with Oprah's. Oprah's had every kind of hair. In terms, if you want to talk about the hidden language and importance for Black women and their culture hair, Oprah is, volumes and volumes and volumes of that. So
that is such an incredible story. None of which I had any idea of. And while you were talking, I was just thinking about Samson and Delilah, right? I mean, one of the most powerful stories in the Bible is, when Samson's hair is cut. And with it goes his strength. And so I never thought of hair as well, not
little things. And I'm not, it's hard to sum the whole thing up because it's very conversational. Oh, last thing. Oprah, when she was a reporter early on, before she was an anchor, she said the reason she got fired from being a reporter or taken out the field is because she would go to a fire, and the woman would have her hair in curlers, and she'd be like, honey, do you want to take off do you want to take out the curlers? She wanted people to present themselves in their best light, that she would sort of produce people, fix their hair. Anyway, it's not, super driven and super compelling, but if you just want to sit around and hear some really fabulous, and for me, eye-opening cultural conversations, the Hair Tales, I saw on Hulu. It's also on OWN.
Amazing. Thank you, Tom. Number 3.
Number 3.
I am reading The Haunt of Fear, a collection of 50s horror comics from EC that is just so fun. It is so good. EC Comics was like DC Comics or Marvel in the 1950s, and they did horror comics and romance comics, I believe, and they were very famous for that. Now, when I was little, I had these 2 cousins, David and Blake, a virgin, and I followed them around. I idolized them so much, and they were so cool.
This was like the 70s, and they introduced me to Planet of the Apes. They made me sit down and watch Planet of the Apes and 2001 Space Odyssey and the Hobbits, and they told me about the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons. And they were nerds, but in the 70s that was very cool, and they were very cute, and I just loved them so much. And I remember one summer we got a cottage on Oyster Bay, and they had a log cabin next to us, and I just followed them around the whole time. I was like 6 or 7, and they were like 10 or 12, and they had these horror comics, and I would read them, and they traumatized me. They were so scary. They were, of course they aren't scary now reading them. They're so silly. And it's like there's a haunted house, and a college kid goes in one night, and they found him the next day, and he was dead, and he had aged 60 years in one night because of the fright. And it's like all sort of like, and there's one where there's a man murders his wife and buries her in the basement with the cat, and he hears the ghost cat meowing, and it drives him insane. And so it's like all sorts of things like that. But these traumatized me so much, and for the last 50 years I have been traumatized by horror comics. So for me to buy this was a very big step. And I was like scared to buy it. I was like, oh my God. And
rereading it, how is it? Like, do you think,
well, like I said, they're very silly, and they aren't scary at all. But at the time, to my 6-year-old self, there was nothing scarier in the world than horror comics. So I am going through and healing a past trauma in my life by reading these. But they're very fun, and it's for tis the season. It's the spooky season.
Tis the season.
It is Halloween, and so if you get a chance, it just came out. It's called The Haunt of Fear. EC Comic Horror.
Ooh.
I love that. Well, perfectly. Here's a natural segue for number 2.
Number 2.
Mega Threats. I am reading a truly dark, terrifying book called Mega Threats by renowned economist Nouriel Roubini, who was nicknamed Dr. Doom until he predicted the 2008 housing crash and Great Recession. So now he's back, and he's saying we don't face just one mega threat. There are 10 mega threats, which is convenient, right? If you're writing a book, it's not like one thing, it's 10 things. It's a listicle book. And making it even worse, these 10 mega threats are all interconnected. He says in the introduction, spoiler alert, without amazing luck, almost unprecedented economic growth, and unlikely global cooperation, this won't end well. So I'm scaring myself to death reading this book. It's about, you want to know what the 10, well, maybe you don't. What are the 10 mega threats?
Yes.
I hear you ask. Well, of course, I immediately went to the contents page thinking it would just list them out.
Yes.
It doesn't.
Damn it.
But basically, I can give you an idea. It's debt, stagflation, globalization, AI, environmental, global warming, right? And Kanye West. No, Kanye West is not on the list. But it's, I mean, I remember, James, when I was a kid, I can't remember what it was like. There's always some book that is
remember
predicting...
Killer Bees were coming. The Killer Bees were coming. That was one. And yes, there was always something that was going to happen, and it was going to take out the world.
The 2012 Mayan calendar.
Yes, the Mayan calendar, and of course Y2K, of course, for this generation.
But it's interesting that print and books especially are really well suited for sort of doom, predictions of doom, and that everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and it's just going to be a nightmarish scenario. So, we're still here, and there's been a bazillion books about doom published.
Are drag queens listed as one of the top 10 things that's going to bring around the other world?
They probably are the cause of
They are one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Right, there you go. Exactly.
No, they aren't. That's the crazy
remember
thing.
Remember Future Shock was the big when I was little.
Exactly. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Exactly. Future Shock. Yeah.
And it's sort of the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
what is the name of this?
It's called Mega Threats.
Mega Threats. Okay.
Yeah. Good title. good Halloween read. Okay.
Are you reading it, or is it on audio?
I'm actually reading it. It's on. You can buy the book. You can buy the Kindle. You can get the audio version.
Nice.
You can terrify yourselves 3 ways.
I think I'm going to do it this weekend.
All right, please do. All right, we're going to take one more break. And when we come back, the number one thing this week that made us go, wow.
Wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. It's Benson here with Blake and James and Tom. We've been counting down the top 10 things this week that made us go, wow.
Wow.
What is number one?
Number 1.
Fenton, I'm interested to hear your take on the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who my first impression is that he's hot and he's a daddy and that I like him. But then the more I was reading about him, he's one of the richest, wealthiest men in the UK. It's sort of maybe is the
richer than the monarchy, as a matter of fact.
Yes, yes. And what is his politics, and do people like him?
Well, I feel I should know the answer to this question. All I've learned in the last few days, I was actually in London when Liz Truss resigned.
Which was right out of the blue, just was such a thunderbolt.
Not entirely out of the blue. People have been predicting her demise since all of the 45 days she was in power. In fact, it was that fabulous meme of the head of lettuce that one newspaper predicted would outlast her. And of course, they were correct. A head of lettuce did outlast Liz
But
Truss.
it's one of those things where, like, in the history of England, in the history of the UK, there has never been any prime minister that has lasted shorter than her.
And it's very un-British, because normally Britain's very sort of stable, or at least not stable, slow-moving. We don't do things in a mad rush. There aren't many revolutions. I mean, apart, off with the head in 1640 or whenever it was. So,
Cromwell, and
right. So
Feels like yesterday.
But Rishi is, in addition to just being incredibly handsome and incredibly wealthy, he went to my college at Oxford. So I'm a little, which is the only time anyone that I've ever been aware of went to the same college.
But is he well liked? Is he far right? Is he far left? What is he?
You can tell I've been blabbing because I have no idea.
Boxers or briefs? Boxers or briefs? That's really what James wants to know.
That's all we care about.
I mean, I don't know about his policies in particular detail, but I would say the Conservatives have been in power for rather a long time and seem to have reached the end of the line,
Okay, well, I will be on the lookout for him, but
it's very exciting from a diversity. I mean, like the first Hindu, the first non-white prime minister.
Crazy.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, all power to him, I guess.
Okay,
right. Well, that's it.
Very good then.
We did it.
That's all we got time for this week. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, James. Thank you, Blake. You can catch previous episodes on our YouTube channel, where you can see us as well. Wow Presents. And we'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.